I believe that there's still wonderful opportunities in emerging markets. Well, our interest is mainly in technology and particularly in semiconductor work, the company that we invested in Korea.
안녕하세요. 글로벌 구루에게 듣는다 시간입니다. 오늘 이 시간은 월가의 ㅅ신흥국, 이머징마켓 하면 전설적 투자자로 꼽히는 마크 모비우스 회장과 이야기 나눠보려 합니다. 모비우스 회장은 신흥국 시장의 인디애나 존스, 개척자로 불리는데요. 템플턴 이머징마켓 그룹 회장으로 30여 년간 신흥국 투자를 이끌어왔고 또 지금은 본인의 이름을 딴 모비우스 캐피털 파트너스를 설립해 운영해 가고 있습니다. 테이퍼링 이슈로 불확실성이 높아진 글로벌 마켓, 또 신흥국 시장의 앞날은 어떻게 움직일지, 특히 외국인 자금의 방향성에 대해서도 한번 여쭤보도록 하겠습니다. Hello, Dr. Mobius. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for this exclusive interview.
It's a pleasure.
회장님께서는 30년 넘게 증시를 지켜보셨었는데요. 물론 많은 변화를 보셨겠지만 최근의 시장, 넘치는 유동성과 극심한 변동성으로 움직이는 시장을 어떻게 평가하시나요?
Of course, there's always a worry in the market. You always must worry about prices going up too fast. And you can see in the cryptocurrency world, there's been an incredible amount of volatility. And you might say a sort of a bubble is forming. But in the overall market, there are lots of companies that are outpacing the market in terms of earnings. So still there are lots of good opportunities.
미 연준이 테이퍼링을 예고했습니다. 시장에는 테이퍼 텐드럼에 대한 우려도 여전합니다. 금리 인상이 신흥국 시장에 어떤 영향을 끼칠 것이라 보시나요?
I don't think so because it's already in the market, so to speak. The emerging markets investors know that it's coming and have already made their adjustments in their portfolios. Well, I think the central bank in Korea will probably want to raise rates simply because if you look at the inflation number, you can see inflation is up, unemployment is down, and so when the central bank sees that, they tend to want to raise rates. So there's a good chance. And of course, as you know, in America, there is a tapering going on. They will probably raise rates in America, and of course, Korea probably will follow suit. Well, nobody knows exactly when, but it'll be sometime this year, let's say within the next few months. But the bottom line is that earnings is keeping up very well in the emerging markets in Korea, in Taiwan, in India, even in China. Earnings are doing quite well. So that's another important impetus for the market to go up.
그렇다면 신흥국 시장 투자가 여전히 유효하다고 보십니까? 그리고 현재 가장 관심을 갖고 계신 시장은 어디신지 궁금합니다.
Well, I believe that there's still wonderful opportunities in emerging markets. And the most interesting to us now is India. India is destined to grow by about 10%. And the government is embarking on a privatization program. A lot of good things happening in India. So if you look at our portfolio, you'll see that India represents about 20% of the portfolio. But we're invested in Taiwan, in Korea, in China, of course. We're in Turkey, we're in Brazil, we're in South Africa. So we're pretty diversified, but the big ones, of course, are in Asia.
한국 시장에 대해서 이야기를 좀 해보죠. 테이퍼링에 따라서 외국계 자본이 한국 시장을 빠져나가는 현상이 나타날 수 있다. 이런 우려가 있습니다. 한국 증시에 대한 평가는 여전히 긍정적이신가요?
Well, Korean investors, I think, should do well in the Korean market. Now, because there will be corrections. As you know, there's an ongoing correction now. Small corrections will take place. But these will be opportunities to buy more stocks. So I'm not too worried about the Korean market. As I said, we're invested in Korea, and we think over the long term, Korean market will do very well.
한국에서는 어떤 업종, 어떤 기업을 주목하고 계신가요?
Well, our interest is mainly in technology and particularly in semiconductor work.
Oh.
So we're invested in, for example, semiconductor testing, that sort of thing. Lino is the company that we invested in Korea because their earnings projections look very, very good. They've got a solid balance sheet and very good margins. And of course, they're in an industry that is growing at a rapid pace. Yeah, our preference is for small and medium-sized companies. Hopefully they'll grow into big companies going forward because their growth rate is very, very high. If you have a good small company that's growing at a rapid rate, it soon gathers momentum and the size grows. People then begin to notice and the market capitalization increases.
한국과 대만의 반도체 기술력에 대해서 언급을 하셨는데요. 이 업계의 선두주자인 삼성과 TSMC에 대해서 여쭤보겠습니다. 3나노 반도체 양산 전쟁이 시작되는 모습인데 이들의 승부 어떻게 전망하시나요?
Well, both companies are very, very good. Both companies have this particular niche. As you know, Samsung is important in the memory area, but TSMC is more diversified. And they, of course, get business from all over the world, as does Samsung. So I would say these two companies are more or less on par with each other.
모비우스 캐피탈에서 특히 주목하는 것은 ESG이죠. 특히 회장님께서는 코리아 디스카운트 요인으로 기업 지배구조를 꼽으셨던 적이 있습니다. 현 정부 출범 당시에 기대했던 기업 지배구조 개선 성과가 나타났다고 보십니까?
Actually, over the last decade, we've seen an incredible improvement in corporate governance in Korea. Korean investors have been demanding a better corporate governance, and companies, particularly the small and medium-sized companies, are reacting very positively to that trend. So Korea looks pretty good on that side. We look at E, the environment, we look at S, the social, and the governance, the G. But in addition to that, we look at C, the culture. Yeah, C, the culture of the company. What is the morale of the company? Do people feel committed to a company? That is very important as well. Simply because high scores in ESG plus C results in better stock performance. If you look at the performance of stocks, you'll see that those scoring high in ESG plus C perform better. So it's really a matter of making money.
최근에 한국에서는 미국 주식에 직접 투자하는 한국인들이 늘고 있습니다. 이들에게 조언을 해주신다면 어떤 게 있을까요?
Yeah, I would advise Korean investors to, first of all, be diversified. Don't only stick to one stock. Maybe pick 10 U.S. stocks. Pick stocks that show growing earnings. You don't want to go into companies that are not making money, even though the stock price may perform. It's a big risk. Look at companies that have a strong balance sheet and look at companies that have a high return on capital, a good margin, operating margin. And if you do that, you should do fairly well.
비트코인에 대해 부정적인 견해를 피력해 오신 바 있습니다. 가상화폐의 어떤 점이 좀 우려되시는 걸까요?
Well, as you know, it's all about faith. If you have faith in the cryptocurrency, that's fine. I mean, it's a game, so to speak. And of course, you buy it because you expect someone else to pay more for what you paid. So it's kind of sometimes described as a Ponzi scheme. But the reality is that millions of people are caught up in cryptocurrencies, and we have to watch it very carefully because up to now, as you know, there have been big corrections. It came down by 50%, then went up. Now it's up again by 50 or 60. These are big moves. And when it goes up, it means that more and more people are feeling wealthy. They feel they've made lots of money. And that, of course, is good for the market generally because these people then will spend. So I think we have to watch that very, very carefully. Any break in the cryptocurrency markets will not be good because so many people are involved. I don't think it has a long-term future simply because it's not something that you can use to pay your taxes. The day that cryptocurrencies can be used to pay your Korean income tax, that's the day that I will believe in cryptocurrencies.
금과 원유 등 이 원자재에 대해서 갖고 계신 전망을 듣고 싶습니다. 화폐 가치 하락 시 포트폴리오를 어떻게 가져가면 좋을까요?
The dollar is now showing signs of strength. Of course, it's down from the high point, but it's now showing signs of strength. And I believe this will continue. And that will generally be good for the U.S. market and the globe. As you know, I am very bullish on gold. I think people should have some gold, not necessarily to make a lot of money on its appreciation, but as a safe haven. Because with all of these new currencies, so-called currencies, cryptocurrencies, and of course with the incredible increase in money supply, as you know, money supply in Korea, I think in 1 year is up 15%. In America, it's over a 30% increase. Any increase in money supply means devaluation of the currency. So you want to be in gold as a form of currency in case of emergency. Oil prices will probably be around these levels. I don't think you're going to see a big spike in oil prices unless there's some big event taking place like an explosion. Well, I would say now it's probably not a good time because commodity prices have already spiked up, have gone up quite a lot. So I would be cautious on commodities at this stage.
미중 무역전쟁은 어떻게 흘러갈 거라 전망하시는지 궁금합니다. 특히 이 미증시에 상장된 중국 기업들에 대한 우려도 여전한데요. 이 리스크를 어떻게 평가하시는지 궁금합니다.
Well, as you know, the Chinese are very concerned about data security because a company like DD has an incredible amount of data about Chinese citizens. So just like the U.S. is very concerned about data security. So I think you're going to see a continuing crackdown for both the U.S. and China on this. The other factor is that the regulatory crackdown by Chinese government, I think, is a good thing because up to now, many of these companies have gotten much, much too big and dominating, and they have really killed off a lot of the small and medium-sized companies. So anti-monopoly action by the Chinese is probably a good thing for that market. In fact, it's probably needed in the U.S. as well. So these changes, I think, are generally good for the Chinese market. However, as you know, the big stocks like Alibaba have come down, and that has affected the emerging markets index because the Chinese stocks represent 30% plus of the index. And that means a lot of people get scared about emerging markets generally. But I think that fear is misplaced. If you look at individual countries like Korea, Taiwan, so forth, they've been doing quite well despite the crackdown and the downturn in the Chinese market. Well, I think you better be careful about the ones that are listed in the U.S. Because those are the ones that are threatened by delisting by the U.S. government. Mm-hmm. So I would stay away from those. But you can invest directly into the Chinese market. And in view of the 20-30% downturn in prices for some of these large internet stocks, mm-hmm. There's probably an opportunity to pick up some of these companies at low prices. But I think that is pretty much over. I don't think you're going to see a continuation of that. I think at the end of the day, the news is already out. It's already discounted in the market.
마지막으로 저희 시청자들을 위한 투자 전략 조언 부탁드립니다.
Well, I think the key to investing, of course, is to not be bothered by the volatility in the market and the fluctuations. The big risk, of course, is a downturn in confidence. And that's the reason why it's a good idea to watch the price of Bitcoin and some of these cryptocurrencies, because that would signal whether people are losing confidence. The key is to take a steady view, buy the market when stocks go down, but don't get out of the market completely, because at the end of the day, if you look at the stock market indices, they continue to increase over the years. So you've got to be exposed to the market, particularly companies that are earning and increasing their earnings. In one sense, it would be keep your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground.
That will be it, and we've covered a lot of ground here with you today. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope all is well.
Thank you very much.
Please
Bye-bye.
be healthy. Bye-bye. Thank you. 경기 회복에 대한 안도감과 이 팬데믹의 여파, 버블 붕괴 등 여러 가지 불확실성이 공존하는 상황에서 투자자들의 고민은 더욱 깊어지는 모습입니다. 하지만 막연한 공포보다 철저한 분석으로 이 투자 기회를 잡는 유연한 전략을 세우는 것이 중요해 보입니다. 함께해 주신 여러분 고맙습니다.